It wasn't the words that broke me. It was the laugh. That careless, cruel little laugh that slipped out of her mouth. The same laugh that used to fill our kitchen on Sunday mornings when she'd burn the pancakes and make fun of herself. But this time, she wasn't laughing about pancakes. She was laughing about me. And I was standing 10 feet away, invisible. We were at her friend's engagement dinner, the kind of fancy, dimly lit place where everyone pretends to be happier than they are. I was holding 2 glasses of wine, weaving through the crowd, trying to find her. I spotted her near the corner, under one of those golden chandeliers that made everything look warm, even lies. She was talking to a man I didn't recognize. Hand on his arm, tilted head, that smile she used to reserve for me. I slowed down. I shouldn't have listened, I know that. But curiosity is a slow poison. You sip it without realizing it's killing you. He asked her something I couldn't fully catch. And she said, "Oh, him? Please. I'd never choose him again. Not after everything I know now." Then came the laugh. That light, mocking sound, like I was a joke only she understood. My fingers tightened around the glasses until the stems almost snapped. I remember staring at the red wine trembling inside like it was holding its breath for me. I didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there while the music played. People laughed, forks clinked, and my entire world quietly folded in on itself. I could have walked over, could have made a scene, could have asked her why, but instead, I placed the glasses on the nearest table, turned around, and walked straight out through the side exit into the cold night. No words, no goodbye, just silence, and the sound of that laugh echoing behind me. That's how it started. Not with betrayal in bed, not with a message on her phone, but with a single laugh that told me she was already gone. And she never even noticed I left. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I walked past valet, past a line of people outside the restaurant laughing and checking their phones, past a couple fighting quietly near a black SUV. I didn't stop. My feet carried me 3 blocks without direction, but with purpose I didn't know I had. The wind cut through my suit jacket like I was made of glass. I wasn't even thinking straight. I just knew I had to disappear, not forever, not yet, but for long enough that she'd start to notice the absence of something she thought would never leave. I didn't call anyone. I didn't go to my brother's or a hotel. Instead, I remembered this broken-down trailer in the woods behind my late uncle's property. We used it years ago during renovations. Moldy, half-flooded, forgotten. It had no heat, no signal, no mirrors. Perfect. When I got there, the smell of wet wood and rust slapped me in the face. But I welcomed it. I sat on the floor with a flashlight between my knees and just breathed. For the first time in months, I didn't have to pretend. Not to her. Not to anyone. I thought I'd cry. I didn't. I just sat there, stunned, letting the weight of her words finally settle in my bones. She'd never choose me again. She said it with a smile. She said it like it was funny. And the worst part? I believed her. I started replaying everything. Her phone always face down. The sudden fitness obsession. The way she used to ask how my day was. And now she just stared at the wall when I spoke. How she stopped wearing the necklace I gave her the night I proposed. The signs weren't subtle. I just didn't want to see them. At some point, I pulled out my wallet and stared at the photo I'd carried since our honeymoon. Her on the beach in that oversized straw hat. Laughing, sunburnt, no makeup. That laugh used to be real. What changed? Was it me? Was I too soft, too loyal, too predictable? Did loving her without conditions make me boring in her eyes? Or was I just a placeholder until something more exciting came along? That night, wrapped in a blanket of rot and mildew, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. First, I'd vanish. Let her feel it. Let her wonder. Let her imagine the moment I stopped existing for her. I'd give her the silence she never expected from me. And in that silence, I'd build the storm. She made me invisible at that party. Let's see how she handles a ghost. By morning, my phone had 17 messages and 4 missed calls from Lorelei. The first one came in around 11:08 p.m. Short, casual. "Hey babe, where'd you go?" As if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't peeled the skin off my heart with that smug little laugh. The second message was more annoyed. "Seriously, Jake? You just left? Without saying anything?" The next few were a mix of performative concern and passive-aggressive guilt trips. Classic Lorelei. "Are you okay? I looked everywhere for you. You embarrassed me tonight. Are you drunk or something? Grow up." I stared at them while sitting on a half-broken chair with duct tape across the seat, in that dead trailer filled with mold spores and the echo of a life I used to believe in. I didn't answer. I wanted to. God, my thumbs hovered above the keyboard more times than I could count. But every time I tried to type, I heard her voice again, that exact phrase. I'd never choose him again. She didn't know I heard it. That was the beauty of it. She was trying to act confused, worried, irritated, all without a clue that her little performance was wasted on a man who finally saw behind the curtain. I shut the phone off. Not just locked it, completely powered down. I wanted her to stare at those undelivered bubbles and sit in her confusion. Not for revenge. Not even out of spite. I just wanted her to taste the uncertainty I'd been choking on for months. The next 2 days were harder than I'd like to admit. I wasn't built for revenge. I wasn't some cold, calculating mastermind. I was just a man who loved wrong, who stayed too long, and who ignored red flags until they became stop signs embedded in his chest. I started making lists, scribbling on napkins, receipts, cardboard, anything I could find in the trailer. I wrote down everything I remembered. When she stopped saying, "I love you" back. When she started locking her phone in the bathroom. When she told me I was too safe. That night, she came home smelling like cinnamon and tequila, even though she swore it was just a girl's night. Each note was like another puzzle piece I'd refused to fit together before. I wasn't trying to build a case to confront her. I was trying to convince myself that I wasn't crazy. On the third morning, I drove back into town. Not home. I still wasn't ready to see her face. Instead, I parked 2 blocks from our house and waited. I had the seat reclined, sunglasses on, a baseball cap pulled low. I watched from behind tinted glass like some low-budget private eye. At 7:46 a.m., she left the house. Not in joggers. Not with a ponytail. She was in full makeup, heels, and a tight maroon dress I hadn't seen in months. Jogging, huh? She got into an unfamiliar white car that pulled up with the windows already rolled down. The driver was a man, tall, clean-shaven, buzz-cut, sunglasses. I couldn't see much, but I saw enough. She leaned in through the window, said something, laughed. Again. Then she got in, and the car drove off. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch the steering wheel like some guy in a movie. I just sat there, feeling nothing. Not numb. Not angry. Just empty. Because now I knew for sure. This wasn't just emotional distance. It wasn't growing apart. It was betrayal. And it had a face. She was already building her new life. She just hadn't told me I wasn't part of it yet. But that's okay. Because now, neither was she part of mine. It took 4 full days before I walked through that front door again. I timed it perfectly. Early evening, just after sunset, when the shadows stretched long across our porch and the hallway lights glowed that soft amber that always made the house feel warmer than it deserved to be. The moment I stepped in, the smell hit me first. Citrus cleaner, something floral underneath. She had scrubbed. Hard. Not because she missed me, but because she was hiding something. Jake? Her voice floated down the stairs like she hadn't been sleeping in our bed alone, like she hadn't texted me 24 times and called my mother just in case. She came down fast, barefoot, in leggings and one of my old flannel shirts she used to steal from the laundry. I watched her eyes study me like a scientist examining a rare animal. I saw her notice that my hair hadn't been washed, that my jacket smelled like mildew and campfire, that my face was more drawn than it used to be. But she didn't ask the question that mattered. She didn't ask where I had been. She asked, "Why didn't you tell me you were going somewhere?" I just stared at her. I had rehearsed this moment over and over while sleeping on rotting cushions and chewing on vending machine crackers. But now that it was here, I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to accuse. I just wanted to hear her lie. So I told her the truth, a simple one. I needed time. She blinked, a flicker of something crossing her face. Guilt? Relief? Disappointment? I couldn't tell. Then she stepped forward and touched my arm, gently, like I might break. "Jake." I was scared. I thought something happened to you. That's when I saw it. The shift. The eyes narrowing just slightly. The subtle recalibration of her tone. She wasn't worried. I had interrupted her timeline. I asked her how her week had been. Her mouth moved fast. "Busy. Work's been chaos. Ashley quit, so I had to pick up extra shifts. I barely had time to think. You really left me hanging." There it was. The pivot. From concern to blame. I nodded slowly. "Didn't you have that engagement party Thursday night?" She flinched. A tiny one. Almost invisible. But I caught it. Oh yeah? It was fine. Boring. You didn't miss much. She didn't mention the man, the dress, the laugh. I smiled. Glad you had fun. I watched her relax. Just slightly. That's the thing about liars. They don't break all at once. They unwind in small, delicate pieces. We made dinner that night. Chicken and rice. She poured wine, laughed once or twice at a show she pretended to enjoy. She touched my hand across the table like everything was back to normal. But I knew better. I wasn't back. Not really. This wasn't home anymore. It was a crime scene with clean counters and a scented candle. That night, after she fell asleep, I got out of bed and opened her laptop in the kitchen. I knew the password, her childhood dog's name, typed in lowercase, no numbers. And within 2 minutes, I found the folder, buried in her downloads, labeled temper seats. Inside, photos, screenshots, messages. Not just one man. 2. One was the guy from the white car. The other? A coworker I thought was gay. Apparently, not gay enough. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just sat there, clicking through conversations where she called me boring but stable, where she laughed about how he wouldn't leave even if I slapped him with the truth. She was right. Until now. Because I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. That's what she'd expect. No. I was going to do what she never saw coming. I was going to give her exactly what she wanted, freedom. But on my terms. And when I walked away this time, I wouldn't be the one who looked back. The hardest part wasn't pretending I didn't know. It was watching how easily she kept lying to me. Like it was muscle memory, like she'd been doing it for longer than I realized. Each morning after I came home, she'd kiss my cheek, ask if I slept okay, talk about some imaginary stress at work, and casually drop the names of people she was supposedly too busy to see. I nodded, smiled, made her coffee just the way she liked it. Almond milk, 1 raw sugar, cinnamon dusted like a secret. She thought I was falling back into routine. But I wasn't. I was documenting. I had a notebook now, one I kept duct-taped under the bottom drawer of my old tool chest in the garage. Every time she left, I'd take it out and write. Dates, times, names, license plate numbers. The moment she said she was going to yoga but ended up in a diner on 14th with a man who touched her hand for too long. The night she claimed to work late, but I watched her sneak out of her car in heels she swore she didn't even own anymore. I didn't just watch her lie. I measured it. And it was incredible, not because I admired her, but because I finally understood. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't a mistake. Lorelei had built an infrastructure of dishonesty around herself. Backup plans, burner accounts, excuses crafted days in advance. And the more I observed, the more I realized this wasn't just about love. It was about control. She needed me to stay predictable so she could keep spinning her little web uninterrupted. She needed me to be the loyal, dependable wallpaper she could ignore. So I gave her what she wanted. I stopped asking questions. I stopped noticing her new outfits. I stopped reacting when she came home later and later. I made myself so easy to lie to, she started getting sloppy. She didn't even lock her phone one night. She fell asleep with it in her hand while texting someone named E. I watched the bubble appear. A message that read, "He's getting quieter. I think he's giving up." She followed it with a laughing emoji. And that's when I knew. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was entertained by the idea of me losing myself. I wanted to break something. I didn't. I took a screenshot and emailed it to myself from her phone, one of many. She wouldn't notice. She had stopped seeing me. Then came the final piece. A business card, tucked inside the pocket of a coat she never wore, hanging untouched in our hallway closet. I only found it because I was hiding a small microphone under the light fixture above the coat rack. Yes, I'd gone that far. The card read, Elijah M. Rains. Financial Consulting, Discrete Transitions. On the back, let me know when you're ready to separate quietly. There it was. The exit plan. She was getting her finances in order. She was already working on her alibi, her smooth transition, her next chapter. She wasn't going to tell me. She was going to surprise me with it. Maybe after a fake therapy session. Maybe on a weekend when I thought we were going to visit her sister. But now, I had the timing. I had the motive. I had her script. And I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to accelerate it. Because the thing about people like Lorelei, they only feel powerful as long as they think they're 5 steps ahead. So I let her walk into every trap she didn't even know I'd set. One cheerful lie at a time. There's something surreal about watching a person rehearse a betrayal they think you'll never see coming. By the end of that week, Lorelei had shifted into what I now call her exit phase. She was suddenly extra sweet in the mornings, throwing in little touches of affection that hadn't existed for months. A kiss on the cheek, a handwritten note left beside my coffee mug. Just thinking of you. Lies printed in cursive. It was all part of the performance. The softening before the blow. The guilt protection strategy. She needed me docile when she dropped the bomb, so she could keep her halo intact and say things like, "We just drifted apart," while she ran off with someone who smelled like a car commercial. She thought she was so clever, so clean, but I'd been watching. I knew the date already. Elijah, her discreet financial advisor, had sent a calendar invite from a burner email she forgot to delete from the trash. I restored it from her Gmail while she was in the shower. They planned to finalize transition paperwork on the 19th. For days away. So I got to work. I wasn't out for revenge. Not in the cliché sense. I wasn't going to post photos or humiliate her online or crash her job with screenshots. That would have been too easy and too obvious. No, what I wanted was silence. Stillness. That sharp, cold air you feel when you realize the person you thought you were manipulating was watching you the entire time. I moved money first. Quietly. We had a joint account for shared expenses, but most of my personal income was funneled through a secondary account she didn't pay attention to. I emptied it into a new one, different bank, different name, entirely separate from our paper trail. I kept the balance under $9,999 so it wouldn't trigger any IRS flags. Then I backed up everything. The emails, the texts, the photos, the video of her entering the white car 3 times in 1 week. I even had audio from the hallway mic, snippets of her phone calls, full of mockery and smug little jokes about how clueless Jake is. They were time-stamped, labeled, stored in 2 encrypted USB drives I hid in separate locations. Next came the lease. The house was under both our names, but the land title was still in my uncle's trust, a technicality she never cared about. One call to my cousin, who owed me for something that happened when we were teens, and the process to terminate our co-occupancy agreement was already set in motion. I didn't need to evict her. I just needed her to realize she'd already left. She just didn't know it yet. The final step? The one I wrestled with the most? I wrote her a letter. Handwritten, 8 pages long. It was calm. Not angry. Not pathetic. Just truth. Raw, measured, and surgical. I told her the date I heard her first lie. The moment I saw her with the man in the white car. The details she never thought I noticed. I told her I wasn't broken. Just awake. And I thanked her, sincerely, for showing me who she really was before I wasted another year pretending not to see it. I sealed the letter in an envelope. No dramatic label. Just her name. I placed it inside her gym bag, the same one she used for her sunrise workouts. She'd find it the next morning. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was tormented, but because I was calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. I was reclaiming something. My dignity. My narrative. My silence. She'd wake up thinking she still controlled the pace of the story. She had no idea the story had already ended. She just hadn't read the last page yet. The morning she found the letter, I was already gone. I left before sunrise, the air still wet with that heavy pre-dawn quiet that makes even the trees seem like they're holding their breath. My car was packed with what little I cared about. An old leather duffel, my laptop, and the last remnants of a life that wasn't mine anymore. The house was spotless, too spotless, the kind of clean that always precedes a goodbye. I wanted it that way. I wanted her to walk into that kitchen and feel like the space itself had exhaled me out of existence. I didn't need to see her reaction to know how it went. I'd spent years decoding every flicker of that woman's face, every twitch of guilt disguised as confusion, every performance of innocence she weaponized against me. I could picture it perfectly, the sound of her keys hitting the counter, the soft unzip of her gym bag, the pause when her hand brushed against the envelope, the hesitation, the instinct that told her don't open that, the curiosity that made her do it anyway. I imagined the first page. The way her eyes would scan the words too fast at first, her brain scrambling to make sense of the tone. Not angry, not desperate, just deliberate. Then that creeping panic when she reached the second paragraph and realized I'd known everything. Not just the affair with Elijah. Not just the dinners, the fake business meetings, the hotel receipts she'd thought she deleted. Everything. The second man, The one she swore was just a friend. The text she sent about me being too soft, too predictable. The night she joked about how I'd probably forgive her even if she got caught. That was the line that would stick in her throat. I could almost feel her breathing stutter as she read it back in her own handwriting. I wrote it like a confession she never gave, but couldn't escape. I told her I wasn't angry anymore. That anger meant I still cared. I told her I'd stopped loving her the moment she started laughing at me. That laughter was the sound of the bridge burning, and I finally understood it wasn't my job to rebuild it. I told her she could have everything she'd been craving: freedom, adventure, danger. She just couldn't have me as her safety net anymore. By the time she reached the last page, I'd already moved the funds, canceled her access to my accounts, and notified the trust manager that she'd be vacating the property within 2 weeks. I wasn't cruel about it. I left her a clean out, even suggested she contact the same attorney she was already seeing behind my back. I didn't need revenge. The truth was doing it for me. Around 8:45 a.m., while I was sitting in a diner 3 towns over, stirring a cup of coffee I didn't plan to drink, my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. Then again. 3 missed calls in a row. I didn't answer. I watched the notifications stack, one on top of another. Jake, what is this? Please call me. This isn't fair. You don't understand. We can talk about this, please. Where are you? Each one shorter, more frantic, more hollow. She didn't even realize how poetic it was, her trying to talk her way out of something she'd already buried with her own words. By noon, she sent one last message. Just 2 sentences. I never meant to hurt you. Can we fix this? I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I powered the phone off and dropped it face down on the counter beside my untouched coffee. There was nothing to fix. The story had already played out. She was just realizing which role she'd been cast in, and that the final act didn't include her. Outside the diner window, the road stretched endless and pale, sunlight cutting through the mist like a promise. For the first time in years, I felt weightless. Not happy, not triumphant, just free in a way that felt real, not earned but reclaimed. Behind me, in that spotless house, Lorelei was unraveling page by page, realizing that for once, I'd been ahead of her. That while she was busy planning her clean escape, I'd been writing the ending she never saw coming. And the best part? I didn't have to watch her fall apart. I just had to keep walking. 3 months. That's how long it took for the silence to finally settle inside me. Not like an echo, but like a room finally cleared of smoke. I never went back. Not once. No dramatic confrontation. No courtroom showdown. No final conversation where we closed the chapter. Some pages don't get closed. They get torn out. And that's what I did. I removed her from the story, not with violence or hatred, but with absolute, irreversible absence. I'd like to say I healed quickly, but that would be a lie. The first few weeks were brutal in their stillness. I stayed with an old friend near the coast, someone who didn't ask questions, just handed me a spare key and a porch chair that creaked like an old man's laugh. I sat for hours watching the ocean try to swallow itself. At first, I couldn't even name what I was feeling. Grief? Rage? Relief? It came in waves, but eventually, the water calmed. Lorelei tried to reach out. Not often. Just enough to remind me she hadn't let go. A birthday message. A photo of our dog, who she kept, by the way, and oddly enough, I was okay with that. Maybe he was her penance. Or maybe he needed someone to comfort, and she needed to be reminded daily of the loyalty she squandered. She never apologized for what mattered, only for how it made her feel. And that was all I needed to know. I built something new. Slowly. I took a remote consulting job, one that let me work from a tiny rental overlooking the bay. I bought a used bike, started riding trails before sunrise, before the world had a chance to put on its noise. I read novels. I learned how to cook without burning everything. I started writing again. Nothing deep, nothing polished, just words that belonged to me and no one else. And one evening, in a bookstore that smelled like dust and cinnamon, I met someone. Her name's Brenna. She asked if the book I was holding was any good, and I told her I didn't know. I just liked the cover. She smiled, said she judged books the same way. We talked for an hour without realizing it. There were no sparks, no fireworks, just ease. It felt honest, and that's what I craved most. Not passion, not revenge. Peace. I used to think being chosen was the goal. That love meant being picked over and over. But now, I understand. You don't need to be chosen by someone who doesn't value you. You need to choose yourself, without apology, and build a life where loyalty is not weakness, and silence doesn't mean surrender. Lorelei will always be part of my past, a shadow in the shape of a lesson. But she no longer lives rent-free in my head. I don't check her social media. I don't replay the old tapes. I don't even flinch when I hear her name. Because I survived her. And more than that, I outgrew her. So no, I didn't get even. I got better.